Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Pelicans Daily brought to you by FanArt. I am your host, Chrissy Smith. Thank you for joining me today as we get into some exciting new Pelicans news, and that is that the Pelicans schedule has been released. It's finally out, something that a lot of us have been waiting on because this is just the next step in the off season and what is to come. So really, really exciting that the schedule has come out and the Pelicans are starting at home. So that's really good news for the Pelicans. One of the main key points for the team is to get off to a good start. No, nothing sluggish. And I want us to look back at the Pelicans record. You're not going to believe this. Going back to the 2014-2015 season, that was the last time that the Pelicans started above 500 after the first 10 games of the season. I mean, we're talking 12 years here since they've started over 500. I mean, what a drought. There have been a couple of years where the Pelicans were 500, right at 500. Only two times that happened. But last season they started 2-8. Actually, then they went 2-10, so they lost even two more games after that. The season before they started 3-7. The year before that they were 4-6, 5-5, and then the year before that they were 1-9. I mean, this has been so brutal. So it's really, really important that the Pelicans get off to some kind of a decent start. I mean, 500 at the bare minimum, I would say. But realistically, they do need to start out over 500. And when you look at this stretch and what they've got, they start out at home against the Indiana Pacers. So that's going to be a good test right there. But the Pelicans are kind of set up with a little bit of a lighter schedule to start out the season, which is a good thing for the Pelicans. Last year, if you remember, they had a brutal, tough start to the season, not just from a record standpoint, but who they were playing. So after the Pelicans start out at home, then they're going to go on the road for two games against Utah and Denver. And then they come home and they play Denver. Then they play at home against Sacramento, Atlanta, Utah, and Minnesota. So that's a really nice 5-game home stretch that they're going to have. 6 of their first 8 games are at home. And that's very, very important for the Pelicans. And obviously, look, they want to really show that all this new coaching personnel, all of the personnel side that has been brought in, that this is really the key to changing things around, and that it hasn't been an actual roster issue here, that it's really just been um a personnel side that hasn't really brought things together. So I mean, I think that they have a really good chance of starting out very, very good. In fact, 11 of their first 16 games are at home. So plenty of games to check out. They play the Paris games, and those are the only two national games that the Pelicans have actually that are going to be aired. They're going to be on Amazon Prime. So they don't have any other actual nationally televised games. Now, that can change as excuse me, that can change once the team starts playing really well. Then the big, national networks can decide if they're going to pick them up or not. But until, as of now, there's only two games, and those are going to be the Paris games in January. That's January 10th and 14th. They're going to be playing the Heat, and then I cannot wait for the game against the Spurs, and that's going to be on January 14th is when that game is going to take place. So, you know, that's it's a lot's just going to be told really in the beginning part of that season. I mean, they've got to really get on a roll and to start proving people basically wrong that this team did not need a roster reconstruction. It needed a brand new coaching staff and everything that comes with that. I mean, they've hired a behavioral specialist, I believe. They've really just leaned into a lot of new pieces. Also, I want to mention that the schedule release was really good, because if you've ever been to a home game and you've gotten to see the halftime show be Red Panda, that's the best halftime show around. Everybody, it's like a fan favorite. Everybody loves it, and she was part of it. And then it was also really cool because the Pelicans had Jaron Pierre Jr. in it, and they had it designed as like it was they were sitting down for the Netflix documentary about the schedule coming out. So it was really cool. Um, Obviously, in the NBA, they don't go quite as hard on schedule releases as they do in the NFL, but it there's just a lot of things that are happening that it feels like there's a lot of cohesiveness and everybody in the organization is on the same page about what their goals are, what they're looking for. But I will say that looking at the schedule, the toughest part of that whole schedule for the Pelicans is in January, and so hopefully the team is still fully healthy at that point. But what's really tricky about that is that they play the games overseas on the 10th and 14th, and then they come back and they've got some really tough games. I mean, against the Cavs, against Houston, the 76ers, Cavs again, against the Magic, Wizards, who are obviously going to be improved, the Bulls, the Pacers again, the Hawks. I mean, this is going to say a lot. But leading up until that point, it's going to be really important that the Pelicans already have a a good base of being playing over 500. That way, if this is it just I think it's going to be extra challenging because it comes right after going overseas, and that's going to be challenging in itself. Now, talking about that whole trip overseas is something I want to touch on because I got to attend a business event where Jamal Mosley was invited to speak, and he talked for about 15 minutes. He was interviewed by some Fox 8 sports reporters. It was really good. He's just a very personable guy, and he never played in the NBA, but he played overseas, and he's a really tall guy. He's wearing black sweats and hoodie and some Nike shoes, and he's just a long, lanky guy, big smile, and he was friendly with everybody. But he talked about the trip overseas and how that's a really good opportunity to do some team bonding over there, and how they are trying to plan things so that they can spend some time. I mean, you make that whole trip over there. You don't want to just do two basketball games and have to leave right away, because that's a long trip just for something for two games. So they're trying to find it where they can figure out some team things to do. He also said that he thinks that the NBA it's in the works now to expand to at least one or two teams in Europe. That he thinks that's definitely in the works. Didn't give a timeline on it, but that it's something it is going to happen. So that was really interesting. He also mentioned something about the back-to-back games in the schedule and how that is what he looks at the most as being the most important part um, of having what of the schedule and what it comes out with. So when you look at the back-to-back games that the Pelicans have, they've got back-to-back games. They've got three total of 16 basically back-to-back games. Some are home and away, some are away and home, some are home, which you don't really mind those even being a back-to-back. They are back-to-backs, but much easier to manage. And 7 are away games. Same thing, at least you're in the same city, you're not having to travel and then play another game. So 11 of the 16, they're coming where they're staying in the same city to do that game. So I think that that's pretty decent. I feel like last year they had a lot more that were way worse than that. But when you also break down the schedule by month, the Pelicans have their most games in November and then in March. So they've got 16 in each of those months. So spaced out pretty good. I mean, overall, it looks pretty even. I really I really like the beginning of the schedule. They play 6 games in October and then the 6 in November. And like I said, 11 of their 16 to start out are at home. So this is a favorable schedule for the Pelicans to show what they're going to come out with and do and be different than what we've seen the last 12 years, where they have not ever started over 500 after 10 games. That's just kind of a startling stat to see and realize, like, holy cow, that's how long things have really been struggling here. But I will say, like, if they start out really slow with that stretch and what they're having with that schedule and all, it's going to be then you just get ready for a fire sale, because there's no excuse for that to happen with all the preparation that's been put in, and with the fact that they have such a favorable schedule to start out. So I would say out of those first 16 games, I would say that they need to be, at a minimum, they need to be 9-7. I would say at a minimum, like that's what the record should be. So 9-7, you're going to call that a success. I mean, hopefully, they could be 10-6. Like that would really start to stand out and let people know that things have changed around there. But the other things that Mosley talked about were really encouraging, where he talked about the culture has really changed and there's a camaraderie with the players. Uh, Sorry, he said even that Derek Queen, like the work that he's putting in has been phenomenal. He said that he's gone to lift weights with Zion Williamson, and that there's just a big difference now because of the work Zion's putting in. He also said he really has encouraged the guys that are work as they work out this summer to bring somebody with you. He's like, we can't always work out, right now together at the facility. Like they're not in New Orleans, they're all over the place. But he said, bring somebody with you. So you've seen Queen with DeAndre Jordan working out a lot out in LA. You've seen Fears and Trey Murphy and Sadiq Bey. You've seen them together. So you're seeing just this team kind of come together, and they've been knowing each other and playing together for years. But it does feel like there is much more chemistry on this team now than there's ever been before, which is refreshing. So I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we will dive much more into this new schedule as next week comes upon us. But until then, make sure you like and subscribe. You can follow me on X at Sports Chrissy. And until next time, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Bye.